Hey guys, what's up? It's Will back once again for another fight card prediction. We're here for UFC 295 from Madison Square Garden. We've got Jiri Prochazka against Alex Pereira is our main event, with Sergei Pavlovich against Tom Aspinall in our co-main event for the interim UFC heavyweight championship. Honestly, excuse me guys, I've got a little bit of had the man flu all week, so voice is sounding a little weird. I think this is one of the more the best kind of put together cards the UFC's made in a long time. I think there's interesting bouts right throughout. There's fighters I want to see. Really, really, really solid fight card, and really it's caught my interest. There's not many fights in this one that really I'm like, I don't really want to look into all that much. This is just a solid UFC pay-per-view, in my opinion. How fight pay-per-view should be. Two great fights at top and great fights throughout. And really, I think there's a lot of good betting opportunities if you're a bettor out there. Just a really fun, solid card. And I'm looking forward to kind of talking through this, giving you my predictions, see how many I get right, see how many I get wrong. I've got some bets for this week. There's other bets I want to make, which I'm kind of swithering on whether I'm going to make those bets or not. But overall, a very, very, very solid card. And before we get into it, I just want to say a massive shout out to Dan over at Half the Battle. 500 episodes is a pretty big number. And anything you do, 500, doing anything is massive. So shout out to him. Caught the show this morning. And one of the guys that's kind of been around with me for a very, very long time. Just a shout out to him and the content that he produces week in and week out. So I'm going to get this screen up, guys. Sorry, I forgot to do it beforehand. Into this one here, and there we go, and there we are. We're on the event page now, so let's get started all the way at the very, very bottom. This one here, I've made a bet on this fight, and I kind of maybe made it without really thinking. Well, I did think, but I kind of never went back and reviewed some of my kind of previous bets on maybe these guys or previous thoughts on these guys, and I kind of made bets that maybe I wouldn't make today on Thursday morning, that I would have made Monday, Tuesday. So we've got Denis Bazooka with his second fight in the UFC, fighting off against Jamal Emmers in the UFC featherweight division. A really solid fight, and like I say, my pick is Jamal Emmers. And I've actually put him in a parlay with someone else in this card. But like I said, I made that bet, I want to say it was Monday night. And I went back and I wrote notes for myself that I have in here. And it's like, do not bet Jamal Emmers. Silly fight IQ, can do dumb things. But I'm also one of these guys that once I make a bet, I hate cashing out. Cashing out bets is just not for me. I want to ride with what I see. Right where my gut feeling would be, and like I say, more or less it comes down to what you watch on tape. I think overall, skill for skill as a fighter, I think that when he shows up, this is the thing, when he shows up, he is a better fighter than Denis Bazooka. But obviously Denis is fighting at home. He's here in New York. He's getting his sophomore appearance. I thought he looked fairly decent in a kind of hard matchup against Sean Woodson, considering how little time he had to prepare for that fight, and like Woodson, what he brings with his reach and his length and how tall he is. Awkward style opponent. And this is the guy that I've been hearing about for 4 or 5 years, coming from the Aljamain Sterling camp. And he's a sound, solid fighter. But when I look at him, and when I think if both guys are on skill for skill, I think that Jamal Emmers has got him. I think that he's a good striker, a good wrestler. But like I say, he does make bonehead decisions with in fights. Like you look at the Sabatini one, where I think he went for a toe hold in that one. Like I say, wins over Vince Cachero. He should be beating these guys. Sabatini's a tough guy, but he fought stupidly in that one Pat was going for the heel hook, he went for the toe hold, and then ended up getting tapped out, which you don't do that with Sabatini. So that was silly there. Ashkabov, I tried to fade him because I've known about the Ashkabov brothers for a long time. Jamal showed up, looked like he was injury-free, looked like he got a good training camp in. And this one here, I actually bet against him. I bet Jack Jenkins. And Jack Jenkins didn't win that fight in my opinion. In real time, I thought that. Looking back, I didn't think that. Like I say, this is in New York, so it's a little bit, it's on the home ground of Denis Bazooka, and I think he's going to want to come out here and make a statement. Like I say, if it was me today, I probably wouldn't have made the bet. But like I said, I'm going to stick with the parlay that I have Jamal Emmers. I got him at minus 250. I'm going to pick him via decision, but this could end up ultimately being a very, very close decision, and you're getting decent odds, probably plus 200 odds on Denis Bazooka, maybe plus 190, plus 200. But I'm going to ride with my initial thoughts. That was Jamal Emmers, even though I've got notes on that. But yeah, there's another fight I've got a bet on here. We've got Joshua Van against Kevin Borjas in the UFC flyweight division. And this dude here, I've had my eye on coming into the UFC for many years. Well, maybe not many years. He's not been around that long, but a good 2-3 years. I mentioned this guy on a video I made a couple of years back of people that will be in the UFC in so many years, whatever. He was on a kind of no honorable mentions list, was Joshua Van. I think he was only maybe 5-1 at that time. Since then, he's had a couple of fights and he got his UFC appearance. These two were actually scheduled to fight in the Dana White Contender Series, but he was brought in as a late replacement against Zhalgas. Got a split decision win there. I don't know how that was split decision, but that's just how Zhalgas fights. These fights are always close, and he's always in there just making fights super close. I thought he looked great in that fight, considering Zhalgas, although not a top guy in the kind of UFC kind of escape there. He's a tough guy and he fights close, and he's a tough out on your debut. When I watch Kevin Borjas, I watch some of his fights in the Peruvian regional scene. Not super impressed because I don't think the caliber opposition he faced is overly impressive. Now in his Dana White Contender Series, I think it was Victor Diaz. I thought obviously he lacks in takedown defense, can be controlled a little bit, but when he's on his feet, I think his shot selection is pretty decent. I think his length is pretty decent. Love the way he attacked the body of Diaz when he seen that he was slowing down. And that's something, if you go back with his previous fights and even in Peru, that he will go after the body. He will deplete you down there to kind of lower your hands and then look to go up top. And this is another fight. I made this bet weeks ago. I had Joshua Van parlayed up with John Jones. He was minus 225 to where kind of around where he is right now. With John Jones was minus like 400, and obviously now I've got a straight play on Joshua Van. As a straight play, I wouldn't make that. Like I said, as a parlay piece, I thought he was pretty solid. Maybe the line was a little bit high. I don't think it should be that high. I would never play him as a straight play, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm not going to cash out or whatever. I do think I'm seeing some love for Kevin, plus 200, plus 190, and I get it because this could ultimately end up being a very close fight. I don't think Josh, even though I've seen a little bit of grappling, I've seen a submission win where he got the back there and got a rear naked choke. I don't think it's something that he'll predominantly go to, even though I think he could exploit Borjas a little bit, but I don't think he'll really keep him there. He's not really that type of fighter. He's very good technical striker, good head movement, likes to pick his attacks, when to kind of come after you, and he'll vary his attacks across the body, head, body, legs. He will not discriminate any part of the body that he can attack. But I'm pretty confident in Joshua Van that he wins here, but the line is high, and what could predominantly be a close fight. But he's one of my prospects going forward into 2024 that I'm looking forward to seeing. I think there's big things coming for him. So my pick's going to be Joshua Van. I'm going to pick him to win via decision in that one. Kyung Ho Kang against John Castaneda. This, I believe, is a catch weight, like it says here, and this is on the Castaneda side. Yeah, I'm interested to hear what the reasoning behind that is, whether he's carrying too much weight or there's something else. Good fight. I think Castaneda's solid. I don't think it's not someone I've been super impressed with over the years, but I think he's just a genuinely solid fighter. He's got a lot of experience. Like, this is fight number 27, and he's definitely got his feet under him in the UFC already. With this is going to be number 5. Fight number 6, and he's elsewhere to Nathaniel Wood and Daniel Santos, pretty solid guys, with wins over Eddie Wineland, Miles Johns, and Muin Gafarov. I tried to fade him against Muin Gafarov last time as well, but never came through there. Kyung Ho Kang, I was literally looking at this morning. I've already got a bet on Kyung Ho Kang, so I'm giving away my pick here. I've literally been betting this guy since like the UFC went to Japan, which was nearly 10 years ago, 9 years ago. And I remember playing him as an underdog in that fight. I can't remember. Was it Michinori Tanaka, maybe? Might have been. He was plus 150 in that fight, and I remember betting him there. And I bet on this guy a lot. I mean, a hell of a lot. And he's usually at underdog odds. When if not, he's a very, very solid parlay piece. So I bet him here. I bet him here. I think I bet him there as well. So that's an L. And I bet him the last two times when he's been underdogs in his fight. And then you're giving me this fight here where he's also an underdog where, I mean, he is getting on. He's 37, 38, coming just turned 36. So, but he's a guy that I've really liked betting across my time and betting the UFC, MMA, and he's came through a lot for me even before these 5 fights which I came across here. I've been going back to 2016. I've been betting on this guy 2014, so nearly 10 years of betting on him. And he's just a solid overall guy. I think sometimes he can lack a little bit of low volume, which can make fights closer than it needs to be. I think he can do everything really, really well. Castaneda, like I said, I see this being a very close fight. But I'd like to find out the reason behind this catch weight, because there's obviously things in the Castaneda side that are not good, or something might be off. So with that, on top of giving me dog odds on Kyung Ho Kang, I'm going to ride with my Korean brother all day long. Mr. Perfect. I got him at plus 125 very early yesterday, so nearly 2 days ago. Yeah, Kyung Ho Kang, I do think it ends up being close. I will say that, because it's never an all-out kind of, yeah, he's going to blow him out the water. And I think Castaneda, being very, very tough, will make this one. But I think he'll win a decision. So Kyung Ho Kang is my pick there. And that one, first 3 fights, if this is the way the bout order is, I've got fights everywhere, with bets everywhere, sorry. So this is going to be interesting if that's the bout order. I'm not sure it is, but Jared Gordon against Mark Madsen. This was one I came into, I was like, right, I think I want to bet Mark Madsen. And just by the fact I've not been, I think, to me, and I might be wrong with this, I think Jared is kind of, I don't want to say he's fell off. He just looks like he's, I don't want to sound disrespectful, because Jared, I mean, he's a really good fighter. I've bet on him and picked him many times, but he looks like he's slowing down a little bit to me. He's looking, I don't want to say shot worn, but he looks like he's a guy you can get at, you can hurt, you can just match him in many spots. And before that, there was guys who was running through, and they couldn't keep up with the pace, the takedowns, the pressure, whatever it may be. And especially, I mean, you look at these ones here, the Grant Dawson one, that's not a bad L. The Santos one, I think he didn't look overly great in that fight. The Paddy one, he shouldn't have lost, simple as. And then he tried to jump back in here quite early after that accidental kind of clash of heads with Bobby Green. He tried to jump in there with Jim Miller and got told to kind of, maybe that's a little bit too quick. But Mark Madsen, I was thinking, right, this guy, I think he's going to win. He's got a decent chance of winning the first 2 rounds at a pretty high clip, with Jared probably winning the 3rd round at a pretty high clip. So with his takedowns, or at least with maybe his clinching or his grappling, he could maybe win some of these close rounds, but he just doesn't do enough for me when I was watching him back. And there was a lot of, I mean, you watch this fight here, I think that he could have looked a lot better in that fight. I don't want to say that like he kind of gave up in his wrestling or whatever it may be, but he was getting taken down with stuff that I wouldn't expect a guy like he talks himself as an Olympian or whatever getting taken down. Like I say, pure wrestling and MMA wrestling, I know he's different, but didn't really like what I seen there. I mean, he is old. Jeez, I didn't realize he was that old. Been around a long time. Some decent wins. Obviously, Guida, he was kind of getting beat up in the feet a little bit in that one, which I didn't like too much. Like I say, don't really want to bet this fight. Initially wanted to on the Madsen side, but the more I watched of Jared Gordon, even though I think he is slowing down, I think he's got more than enough to win a couple of rounds here. So, yeah, Jared Gordon's going to be the pick there, no bet. Nazim Sadikov against Vladislav Borshev. I've been struggling with this one, because I feel like maybe the dog shot is warranted on someone like Slavaclaus. But I do, when I look at Sadikov, I think there is clear path to victory if he was to put his wrestling singlet on and come out here and try to grapple. Borshev, because we've seen him in the past, multiple takedowns in that fight, multiple takedowns in this fight, and Mike Davis is not even known for his takedowns. Rebounded with a win over Mahashati, but you have to think he has to be working on his wrestling game. I'm just not confident enough in Sadikov to come out here. And if he chooses to wrestle, I would be more confident. I'm just not confident in him doing so. In all honesty, I think that a viable dog shot on Slavaklaus might be the kind of option here. I mean, he had this win over Evan Elder. I think he was on his way to losing that fight personally. This was a better performance here against Terence McKinney. Got through that first round, got the finish there a couple of months back, and overall he's a very, very solid fighter. I'm not particularly sold on him coming out here and wrestling. If I knew that he was going to do that, I would be super, super confident. But then when I look at the Borshev side, I'm not confident if the wrestling is going to take place here that he can stop the takedowns and win rounds. Now on the feet, I think with his body attacks, just with his overall striking, I do see him having the edge. But I see this fight being close either way, and I've been contemplating the dog shot on Slava, but my initial gut feeling was Nazim's going to win a decision here. But I'm kind of all over the place with this fight, honestly. My initial gut feeling before I watched some tape was Nazim, so I'm going to stick with that. But honestly, I could see a Slavaklaus win here, but not super confident. I'll go Sadikov decision. No real confidence. There's some fights in this card that I'm like that with. Mateusz Rebecki against Roosevelt Roberts. This was on a little bit unfortunate. This looks like Liam picks fights in about 10 years' time, maybe. Every time I look at that picture, I think of Liam over there. Shout out to Liam. If you've been around my channel long enough, I've mentioned this guy long before he came into the UFC. Been a massive, massive admirer of this guy, and was really looking forward to this fight against Nurullo Aliyev. Now, I did think the line was a little bit off, but he was a potential bet for me this week at minus, I think he was minus 160. I thought he was kind of big brother, this Aliyev kid, even though I thought the line was a little off. I'm super high in this guy, have been for many, many years. Was in his initial matchup with Aliyev, I was confident he was going to win. I'm more confident here that he beats Roosevelt Roberts, who's coming in here very, very short notice. But shout out to this guy coming in because shows that warrior mentality, will fight anyone, anywhere. And like I say, he is coming off a couple of wins here. Eagle FC, that's a decent win to have. And then that one there, it's not the greatest, but with some wins you'll see and losses throughout there. He went fairly decent in the Tough House, losing to Kat Hollabaugh. But I just think that Rebecki's got a little bit too much. I think he can break him down with his striking, and especially with his grappling. I think that he will be able to get takedowns on the long limbs of someone like Roberts. But Roosevelt, I mean, he's got that decent striking. If he was to keep him at length a little bit, I think that he can maybe cause some problems. But I just think that Rebecki's going to throw leg kicks, bulldoze some shots to come in. And I've seen some people like saying, "Oh, he was getting beat up by Nick Fiore." No, he just kind of blew his wad. It's fairly obvious that he blew his wad in that fight. Rebounded here with that was a massive knockout. He really chopped him up with the leg kicks and then really took him to town through that. So I like Rebecki. I think he's going to move to 19-1 here. And like I said, I've been a fan of this guy for so long. Just wish the betting line was a lot better. But as a pick, Mateusz Rebecki is going to be the pick there. Tabitha Ricci against Lupita Godinez. Another close fight where I've kind of been going back and forward a little bit. Initially, my gut feeling before I started watching this was Ricci side. But I'm also a guy that's known to try and fade Lupita Godinez a little bit. And I think I have on occasions won. I think I bet Angie Hill in that one there. I know I bet Cynthia there, which I thought was a very close fight, but I didn't think that Lupita fought to her true potential in that fight, but it was like plus 200 on Cynthia, so I thought I'm taking a shot there. I want to say I'd probably bet Ducote there as well, so I'm a known guy that tries to fade Lupita Godinez, even though there is some things I really like. I think her grappling's very good. I think her striking's come along, but there is some things that throw me off. She can be a little bit low volume at times, but I think she's a very, very solid fighter with a good record who's showed some promise in her UFC tenure. And it's the exact same I feel on the Ricci side, taking away this loss here 2.5 years ago, I think she went short notice against Manon Fiorot, and Fiorot is one of the next couple of girls that's next in line for a shot at the title. And then she's really just come through some good wins. Oliveira, she's kind of made that jump up in caliber opposition. Fianna, Penny, and then this one here against Gillian Robertson. She's looked very solid. This is definitely, in my opinion, her hardest fight. But I think she's a very live dog. I think her striking is something to be desired. But you have to think that her striking is going to start catching up to her jiu-jitsu and her ground game a little bit. Our boyfriend fights tonight, actually, I think, or tomorrow night in New York. Callum Walsh is a guy coming up in the boxing scene, so she's probably been in and around the boxing gym a little bit. Her hands are probably going to have to start to come on. If she starts to round out her game with that, I think that she could be a very dangerous fighter. Now, as you probably, if I was saying I'm trying to fade her here, I'm going to go on the Ricci side here. I'm going to continue to try and fade Lupe Godinez. But I'm interested to see if this fight, if it hits the ground. I think on the feet, I do give the striking advantage to Lupe, but I'm not counting out Ricci on the feet. I think she's got enough there to stay competitive. The striking element, I think, is very kind of on the Godinez side when I look at it clearly. The grappling side, I think that Lupe can wrestle, but then I think she's playing into some a little bit of danger down here with Tabitha Ricci. I think that she can get caught in some positions, maybe get swept. I'm just a little bit more confident if I had to lay down a bet. I don't know whether I'm going to bet this fight. I want to because the line is coming back up to, I think you can get a plus 150 over here in the UK. And that to me, I think round about that number, it's a bet on the dog. So I've got Ricci in this one, but I can see why there was a lot of love when Lupe came down to like minus 130, minus 140 or so. I can tell why people jumped in then. I feel like the play for me would be, if I had to make the bet, would be on the Ricci side. So my pick is going to be Tabitha Ricci to come through as a dog there. Moving on, this is another it's just solid fight after solid fight. Steve Erceg against Alessandro Costa. Okay, this was one I kind of went down a rabbit hole a little bit because I watched a little bit of Alessandro Costa before, and he's coming in here short notice. I will say that. I can't remember who the original opponent was supposed to be. Matt Schnell, that was supposed to face Erceg here. Costa was a guy that I'd initially watched a couple of fights, and I'd seen obviously his UFC fights, but then really went down a rabbit hole of just kind of watching his back catalogue, going way back. What was it? Was it Cage Fury? I think it was, or Lux FC. That was it. Lux FC was the promotion. He came up there and went down a rabbit hole just watching his fights, just to see what his tendencies were, what his initial game is. And he is a striker. He's definitely a striker with some grappling and some wrestling. But you don't really see his wrestling all too much. I counted, it was like 6 or 7 fights. It was only one fight that he initiated the takedown in. And ultimately got it. But he's got a fun back catalogue of fights if you're looking for a guy to go back and watch. Heavy power, heavy right hand, heavy leg kicks. And that's what he relies on quite a bit. I think he can be susceptible to being hit with a shot like the Albazi fight. And I do think he can grapple a little bit when he wants to. I just don't think it's his go-to. I think he is predominantly a striker that looks to throw heavy blows and try and decipher you through his striking. But like you say, he has got some things there that you can like. Erceg, to me, he is hittable, can take a shot, but his overall, I just think he's more, I don't want to say he's more game, but I love his pressure. Coming in short notice, the guy that I've had my eye on coming through Eternal MMA for years. I saw the Shannon Ross fight. I mean, Shannon Ross has got no chin. He can really knock that guy out. He took him down pretty easily in that one and got the rear naked choke. And like I say, he's not fought the top guys. You're not going to fight the top guys, like the best competition coming out of Australia. But what he did in this fight against David Dvorak, coming in here on short notice, Dvorak, solid striker, can grapple a little. Usually I think he has, for the most part, the advantage on the feet. And Erceg, although was getting hit, was landing some decent shots, hurting Dvorak a little bit, looking for takedowns. That pressure coming in short notice was super impressive to me. Now, he came down, the line was pretty high, and for me, it was dog or pass when it was like minus 170. Now he's minus 200. Like I say, if I was to make a bet on this fight, I would probably take a shot on Costa. But as a prediction, I just feel that Erceg is going to. I think the pressure is going to win him this fight. I think he's going to be in the face. I think if there's takedowns initiated, it'll be from him. I think he can sweep if he gets took down. And I just think he's going to outwork Alexandre Costa. So Steve Erceg for me is going to be a pick. I think he's a solid addition to the flyweight division. I think he'll win some fights. I think he'll lose some fights, but a solid overall addition nonetheless. I do think there's better guys coming up. But for this fight, I've got Steve Erceg for the win there. Pat Sabatini against Diego Lopes here. This was one, again, I come in favouring the Mexican side. And as the fight has got closer and the more I've looked into it, I'm picking Pat Sabatini to win this fight here. And I'm kind of glad that I didn't jump on Lopes when he was plus 115, I think I saw, and plus 110. And now I am hoping the line tightens up a little bit to where I possibly get dog odds on Pat Sabatini, even though I doubt it. But I might be comfortable enough to bet Pat Sabatini at minus 110. Now, let's talk about this guy because watched a lot of his fights, super dangerous. Like, he looks a really sound addition to the UFC from what we've seen. Came in there short notice, fought his ass off, gave Evloev problem after problem, but just that overall experience and the overall game of Evloev really just showed the levels in the featherweight division. But to come in there and perform like he did in that fight, like, you can't take anything away from the kid. And then submitting Gavin Tucker, the guy's got legit skills off his back, and if you give that opportunity to Lopes to wrap something up, and his striking's not bad either, I will put that out there, but he's not a guy that's going to grapple you. But overall as a fight, I think he's fairly solid, but he wants to get the fights to the ground, and off his back, to me, he looks very, very dangerous. But outside of that, I just think that the grinder in Pat Sabatini, and I've not been super high on Sabatini, I've faded him a few times, lost on occasions, but won on this one here. Overall, he's just a grinder, solid, good jiu-jitsu, good wrestling. Striking's not overly solid. I just think that he's going to grind this one out. Initially, I thought he was maybe going to get submitted, but when you look into the overall game and his jiu-jitsu game and where he comes from, I just think that I don't think he's going to get caught in that. I think if he is going to get caught, it's going to be early on. But I think as the fight goes on, he's going to work himself more into this fight and kind of win the fight through his pressure. I think that Lopes, I can see him maybe falling to his back looking for these submissions. I just think that he's a little bit too savvy to get caught with anything. So potential bet for me is Pat Sabatini's minus 110. If I could just get a plus number, it maybe make me feel a wee bit better. But I'm fine at minus 110. More than likely, he will be a bet at some point for me this week. I think there's so many spots in this card I want to fire on, and I've not really felt like that all year. But this fight after fight where I think I really like this spot. So we'll see. But as a pick, I'm going to take Sabatini for the win there. Holy shit. This fight here. Lightweight division. Matt the Steamroller Frevola against Benoit Saint Denis. This fight is not going to be like, just don't take a bathroom break with this fight ever. Don't even just go and get your beverages beforehand. Sit down and watch this one for however long it lasts, because this one could be fireworks. When Saint Denis came into the UFC, I'll be honest, I wasn't overly high on him, but I saw this guy live a couple of times, and this guy just brings it. Like, and the support he has in France is through the roof, by the way. This guy, I think he probably gets the biggest ovations at any fighter that I've seen, even over your Cyril Gans, your Morgan Charrier, who's very popular in France. This guy is the guy in France, in my opinion, just from being in France for his last couple of fights. I love everything about Benoit Saint Denis with his pressure, with his striking. Even though I don't think his striking's all that great, but his pressure, his durability is elite. But there is holes in his game that you can see clearly. He leaves his head in there. When he's going in for takedowns, his neck's probably there. So against the top level guys, he probably has to shore those things up. But he's not a ranked guy, and I think anybody outside of that top 15 he can handle. Now, Matt Frevola, is a ranked guy at this minute, I believe. He's got that number 15 spot. You've got Benoit wanting to make the move in, and Matt Frevola is no easy out for anybody. I do think there's spots that can be exploited. I don't think he's got the best chin. I think he can be grappled. I think he can be pressured, but he's obviously got deafening power, where if he catches you with the right shot, he can hurt you no end. I think that he's got some grappling himself. I just don't think he's going to want to play that game with Saint Denis. I think Saint Denis probably just got a little bit more pressure. I think he's got more durability as well. You bring up this loss here to Alizé dos Santos. I mean, he came in short notice. It was at welterweight, and Zaleski, like you shown last week, is an absolute dog with massive power. And that fight deserved to be finished, but he showed in that 50 minutes he can take an absolute shit kicking and still stay in there. Down at this division, he's ran through guys. I'm not taking away Stolz, he's not great. Miranda, I think, is okay, but I think St. Denis levels above. These two wins here are phenomenal wins, because he gave those guys just no chance to breathe in those fights. That Moises fight, sat there live, and it's different, obviously, sat there in the crowd watching live to coming back and watching it on your TV or computer, whatever it may be. But he's just so impressive, and he's big for the division, let me tell you. Big guy for 155. I saw other 155ers, even 170ers around him. He sizes up with him a lot. Surprised he's jumped back in here so quick, because after his fight against Moises, he was in crutches, and he was in crutches bad. He wasn't in a good state, and that was 2 months ago, just over 2 months ago. So I'm surprised he's got himself back in here so quick against a top guy. This fight is unbelievable. Like I say, this win here against Drew Dober, just a beautiful knockout. He's really on a roll here. Zaitor, I think I tried to fade him in that one as well, which not a good look now. And that Valdez one, he was dropping Valdez everywhere around the cage. How I've picked Saint Denis, and that's another one of these fights where I've thought, right, I've parlayed him with Jamal Amos. And looking at that parlay now, I'm thinking, oh, I don't know if that's a good parlay. I really don't, because I probably should have stayed away. And the odds maybe shouldn't. I got in at minus 200 on Saint Denis, and I was looking to parlay with someone, and I'm thinking I probably made a stupid parlay, but I'm not cashing out. I'm going to stick to this. Would it surprise me if Frevola knocks this guy out? A little bit, because I think Saint Denis can take a punch, but this guy's shown he can knock guys out. I also think that Saint Denis can compromise Matt Frevola. I also think he can grapple him, even though Frevola, I think, is a pretty solid grappler with some good takedown defense himself. I just think the pressure of Saint Denis is going to pay off in this fight, and he's going to break down Frevola and get a stoppage late round 2 or late round 3. That's my prediction. But honestly, that parlay I've made, I think I'm maybe throwing money away, but that's how I kind of feel. I'm not sitting back here and saying don't make a play on Matt Frevola. I think plus 200 if you're getting that for a guy who can really probably maybe compromise Saint Denis at home, lots of fans in the crowd. I think he's got spots to win here. So, yeah, but for me, I'm going to stick with Saint Denis. He's one of the most impressive fighters I've seen recently with my own 2 eyes at events that in a very long time. So for me, I'm taking Saint Denis to win that one there. Jessica Andrade against Mackenzie Dern is up next. This, to me, I think is a really good time for Mackenzie Dern to be coming out here and facing Jessica Andrade, because I think earlier on in the year, I had some conversations where I think I bet Jessica Andrade against Erin Blanchfield, and I had some people tell me that Andrade might be done, or she might start to slow down. I'm like, you can't really say that, considering she won 2 fights beforehand, and she'd beaten Lemos, who's fighting for a belt or whatever, and she's a high caliber girl. But people said she's going to start to slow down. She's been in the UFC. She's 32. She's been around the UFC for years. I remember seeing this girl in Manchester. I think she fought Rosie Sexton that night. That's probably going back close to 10 years. So she's been around the UFC for the longest time. She's got her belt. She's beat some legit people, lost his legit people. She's faced the who's who. Is she at a time now where she's slowing down? And obviously, we're starting to see here, I mean, Yan Zhaonan should get knocked out there. Maybe her durability is starting to wane where she is more susceptible to getting stopped. But she is facing, this girl's next in line for a title shot. This girl's next in line for a title shot. And Suarez is next in line for a title shot. So you're like, she's losing to the creme de la creme or the top of the division. Is Mackenzie Dern in the same bracket as those girls? She has the potential to be, but she has to put it all together and she has to start making big jumps in her game to be considered up there. I mean, she's coming off just wins and losses everywhere. Nunes, I thought was a good win. Rodriguez, I thought she had spots there where she got her takedown and really didn't take advantage of it, lost that one. Tisha Torres, good win. Yan Xiaonan, Yan's fighting for a belt. Angela Hill, always a tough out. She came through that in that fight there. I'm coming into this fight week pretty confident in Mackenzie Dern, and I really want to bet Mackenzie Dern this week. She's minus 175, I think, here in the UK. I think I'm fine betting that, honestly, and this might turn into be a bet here. I just think she has to be careful because Jessica Andrade has got a lot that you like. She's got some power. She's got that kind of bulldozer spirit there. I think that if Mackenzie was to get takedowns, I think she can submit Jessica Andrade. I think Jessica's shown she's a little bit susceptible to high-level grapplers. Mackenzie just has to get the fight there. On the feet, I think she can strike with Jessica Andrade. She just has to watch it because I think Jessica's got the better boxing, the more tighter boxing, the tighter shots, where Mackenzie, I think she's got massive power. Been saying this since she came into the UFC, where she can hurt girls, but her shots are looping. They're not very tight. They're not right down the middle. And she is open to probably getting countered a little bit. But she's shown she's got a chin and she can take some shots as well. I just feel this fight's going to make its way to the ground at some spot. And I think just the dominance that Mackenzie's got down there finds a way to submission. So my prediction, I'm going to go a second round submission for Mackenzie Dern. Massive, massive win for her here. And we'll see how she goes into 2024, whether she will truly make herself a contender at 125. So Mackenzie Dern is my pick there. Into the co-main event with these two fights. And honestly, guys, two great fights and two fights I have been racking my head on for weeks on end since this one got put together. For the interim UFC heavyweight championship, we've got Sergei Pavlovich against Tom Aspinall, who's coming in here on two and a half weeks' notice. You've got the 18-1 record of Sergei Pavlovich, with his only loss being to Alistair Overeem, against the 13-3 record, with only UFC loss in there to Curtis Blades with Tom Aspinall. And I'll put this out here. This isn't the last time these two guys are going to fight each other, by the way. This is the new era of the heavyweight division. You're not having John Jones and Stipe Miocic face either of these guys. So this legitimately could be for the overall undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. We'll need to wait and see what's going to happen next year. But this is the new era of the heavyweight division, and I don't think I've ever been more excited for having guys like these at the top of your division. We'll start off with Sergei Pavlovich. I mean, I don't think, and you can't take things away from the Overeem loss because he got beat out there with ground and pound pretty severely in that one. But that's your UFC debut against Alistair Overeem. That's a massive, massive thing. And since then, the guy has just been an absolute destroyer of men. When was that fight, by the way? 2018, so 5 years. Look at these ones here, like first round, knockout, knockout, knockout. He's just everything first round. And when he's had to make the jump up, these guys can't take the power that this guy throws. And you've legit got power strikers and Lewis and Tuivasa who just can't throw with this guy because he's just got speed and power to burn for days. Maybe not so much speed, but power that just takes you out of your consciousness. But we've not to see anything in rounds 2 onwards. And that's, to me, is a little bit of an eye-opener. You can probably go back and watch something where you maybe see that. I'm not going back that far to watch. Aspinall, I'm still not sure he has much going into your 2-3s. I'd be interested to see that. I'd like to see that at some point. But he obviously doesn't get there either because he finishes fights very, very quickly. Overall, as a fighter, he is better than what Pavlovich is. He's got striking, he's got speed, he's got footwork, he's got movement, he's got leg kicks. He's overall just a better guy across many of the aspects of the game. But, I mean, what he showed from that Blades loss, I think I've been a guy to try and fade Tom Aspinall. Let me put that out there. I tried against Volkov didn't work out. Obviously cashed him against Blades, but I can't really take that as a win because that was an injury there that really took place. But the win's a win. And then he came back after that injury, like a full year later. Marcin Tybura just ran straight through Marcin Tybura like he was nothing. Like I say, if he can grapple with him, I think he can take this guy down, and I think he's got the jiu-jitsu edge. I think he can strike with Pavlovich, but if you strike with Pavlovich, you're asking to get clipped with a shot, and I don't even think it takes much to get hurt by this guy. I really don't. I think if you stand there and do what Tuivasa did, what Derek Lewis did, and I tried to fade Pavlovich against Tai Tuivasa. I'll put that out there as well. Because it was coming off the Paris fight. I was a Tai Tuivasa fan. I thought he could come out here and strike with him and maybe hurt him. Nope. You cannot stand in front of this guy in exchange. He will catch you. He will put you to sleep. Tom has to be like smart here. I think he can strike with him. I really do. I think his speed is on another level for this division, but the power is on another level for Pavlovich. I met Tom Aspinall for the first time in Paris a couple of months back, and I could not believe how much a man mountain this guy was. He was massive. What's he, 6'5"? Yeah, he was massive. I honestly couldn't believe how big he was. And he's so wide as well. I've been racking my brain on this fight and the main event for an absolute, it seems like 24/7 for the last 2 weeks. And I'm really flipping a coin in this one. And I was going to bet, actually, and I showed some of my friends this, I was about to bet Tom Aspinall at -110 before even looking into the fight. And I'm so glad that the line actually changed just before I made the bet. And it moved to like -138. Now it's came down to like -125. My initial gut feeling was Tom Aspinall is going to be the UFC champion, and I'm sticking with that. As a pick, I'm going to pick him to win here. I think that this fight, I think it might be a little bit back and forth in that first round. He avoids some shots of Pavlovich. He maybe can clinch up a little bit, maybe get a takedown. I think if this fight goes into the second round and he can get the fight to the ground, I think he can knock him out ground and pound. I think he can submit him. So I'm leaning on the Tom Aspinall side. And if the line was to come down to -110, I can see myself now thinking that if I can get that number, I might be tempted to bet Aspinall. But I honestly think it's a fight you maybe just have to. I don't know whether you can bet this fight, honestly. Not unless you're just super confident. I'm not super confident because the fight could end as quick as it starts with the power that Pavlovich has got. As a pick, I'm going to pick Aspinall round number 2, submission, TKO, whatever it may be. But I'm looking forward to this fight. But as a pick, I'm going to take Tom Aspinall for the win there. And the main event for the vacant UFC light heavyweight championship of the world, you've got the former champion Jiri Prochazka against the former UFC middleweight champion Alex Pereira. And I don't think we can take away what this guy has done in a short amount of time in his UFC tenure. This could be the second belt he has inside 11 fights in his MMA career. That is craziness. And this matchup is just another one that's racking my brains, and it's hard to be super confident in either side. Now, when I watch Jiri Prochazka, this is my thoughts on it, and I know it's probably wrong to say this. He looks average to me. Average / super fucking dangerous at any aspect of the fight. He's an absolute killer in there. And like I say, he's so hittable, but he is just so dangerous that I can see so many things in this fight where I can see him getting knocked out. I can see him landing a shot and knocking Pereira out. I can see him getting maybe a takedown and getting a submission. I'd be very surprised by that because I don't think he's necessarily a guy that will look to take the fight to the ground. But when you watch him, it's just, to me, and average is probably bad because he's a fighter with a 29-3 1 record. I've seen him knocked out that King Mo fight from probably years ago now, where he walks onto a right hand, very tired, very sloppy, gets knocked out. I see people in the UFC light heavyweight division doing that. I can see Pereira hitting him with a left hook and knocking him out. I can see Jamal Hill catching him with a shot, but you're open to getting hurt by this guy just by how awkward he is, how unusual he is in the feet, and unpredictable is what I put Jiri Prochazka. I feel like I want to bet Alex Pereira. I think that he can break this guy down. I think he can land the cleaner shots. But I've got no confidence in it. He's minus 125. I think there's bets there that you can make, but it's hard for me to, with the last two fights on here, to really just be confident in where you're planting your flag and your money on this guy. So, as a pick, I think it's going to be Alex Pereira. I'm seeing a lot of love. I'm seeing big bets down on Jiri Prochazka at dog odds. I've seen plus 120. There was people jumping on him. I still think people will bet him all the way a plus number like plus 100, plus 105, plus 110. And I don't hate it at all. And like I say, I feel like Pereira could look at value at minus 125, but also could get starched in minutes. It's such a great fight. That I'm really looking forward to. I don't stay up nowadays like through full UFC cards. I just can't do it. I'm too old. I've got kids that are up at 6 a.m. I'm off on the Sunday. My missus is off on the Sunday, which usually works. I will be staying up and watching this whole entire fight card for the simple reason the fights that we have at the tail end of this card are unreal. I'm going to pick Alex Pereira via second round knockout. But I think he might have to come through some things there to really get there. He might have to take some big shots. He might get wobbled because Jiri has some big power, some unorthodox strikes. And we've seen Alex knocked out by Izzy. Loved the fight against Jan Blachowicz. That was a good introduction there. Beat a tough guy. The gut feeling is telling me Alex knockout via round 2 here. So, guys, that's my picks for UFC 295. I'll just go into the chat and say hello. I've kind of been going on here for 45 minutes, which has been great. Shows probably, like I say, I've not felt some of these cards are just hard for me to go up for. Just I like these kind of cards, well-matched cards, good names, good fights. So, yeah. Let's see what's going on here. Jason, what's up? Long time fan of myself. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Dirty Reg, I have been seeing a ton of unjustified hate on Madsen. I think he clearly wins. That was my initial thought before watching some fights. I thought that Madsen was the side, but I think a pretty high clip. You have someone in Gordon who I think wins the third round at a higher clip most than Madsen would. So I think the first 2 rounds are definitely available there for Madsen. For me, I've kind of moved over to the Gordon side for that one there. Rebetsky all day. I agree. What's up, Thomas? Hope you're well. Still can't believe Frevola beat Dober. If guys sling punches, your chin's in the air, it's there to be hit. You never know what can happen, but yeah. Grateful dude. What's up, my man? Dern by decision is worth a small shot. Like I say, I'd picked a via submission, but decision, a win nonetheless will be good. I don't think I'll be betting a prop like a submission prop, not unless it was a fairly decent number. I've not looked. But I don't mind that. Fiero, what's that? Ferrot should take some notes from, find our balls and fight a local in the MSG card. From what I'm hearing, I don't think that fight was ever really made for here. I think that there's something that's coming in the new year, so keep an eye on that. She doesn't want anything to do with Erin Blanchfield. Well, like I say, keep an eye on that because I'm hearing otherwise. But there might be something in the new year with those 2 girls there, but we'll see. Guys, thank you very much. If you're watching this later on, if you even got this far in the video, throw a like on it. It'll help me out. And we'll be back next week for the Bear Jew. Paul Craig is fighting in Vegas in a middleweight main event, which is pretty awesome. So fair play to him. Until next week, guys, enjoy this card because it's a banger. And enjoy it if you're making some bets because I've got bets coming out my head this week. KSW, I've got a bet on there. I'm probably going to have a bet on Cage Warriors. I'm looking ahead to Octagon next week with the UFC. I'm looking at making some bets. Let's hopefully I can cash some. All the very, very best. Enjoy UFC 295 and I will see you next week. Take care.